Hello and welcome to the Brilliant Minds Bunker. Today we have Neville Upton with us, entrepreneur extraordinaire, who has been involved in a variety of businesses, but is now focusing firmly on procurement. Welcome to the bunker, Neville.
Good morning, Alice.
Good morning. Now, Neville, you're, as I say, as an entrepreneur, you've had your finger in a multitude of pies. Can you tell us what you've been doing since you sold your successful call centre business, the listening company, back in 2011?
Yeah, well, I spent the first few years very much focused on Gfinity. I could see that video games was going to be the dominant platform for entertainment within the next 10, 20 years, which I think is definitely the case. And I could see that the subset of esports would be a good area for me to get into. And so invested a lot of the money that I made in that and a lot of time and effort. I'm still very much involved. I'm chairman of that business and not running it day to day, but very involved in the strategy and some of the key relationships. I'm also chairman of a premium spirits business where we source the best spirits around the world and sell them into hotels, nightclubs and restaurants.
Fantastic.
And then obviously now Maestro, where I've been involved for the last 6 months and I'm chairman of.
Yes, thinking about Maestro specifically now, can you just give me an overview of what Maestro do?
Yeah, so we provide end-to-end solutions for people who want to procure services, and we particularly specialize on the tail end. So the tail end is all those small transactions that are quite niche and difficult to source and often uneconomic to source. They typically make up 80% of a company's transactions, but only 20% of their cost base. But of course, that can still be millions of pounds. I mean, for a big organization turning over about $1 billion, that's probably 30 million of spend. So there's still a considerable amount of spend there. Tail end tends to be in various categories. It's things like professional services, people looking for lawyers, accountants. Facilities management is a big area. It could be refurbishing the toilets, putting in new aircon units. With COVID, there's a lot of emphasis there on security and cleaning, as you can imagine. Everyone wants enhanced solutions for that. And then this HR is a big area, people looking for training, recruitment. We get a lot of inquiries on all sorts of areas around HR, sort of niche things from sort of audits and engagement programs and things like that, which is quite difficult for a procurement department to actually source effectively.
And so if Maestro were to take control of tail spend for my business, what would this allow my business to achieve?
There's two scenarios. There's a scenario where you've got a procurement department, which tends to be a larger company, and that's where they're going to be focused on the key strategic purchases that are required. And we would go in there and say, look, just give us your spend analysis. We'll look at where you spend money at the tail end, and we'll address some of that for you. And we do the whole end-to-end service. Where it's a company where you don't have a procurement department, it's typically left to finance, or maybe it's an owner of the business who then suddenly thinks, oh God, I've got to find, this service, and hasn't got time. These people are working 10, 12-hour days. They're fully immersed in the business, and suddenly they've got to be distracted trying to find that service. And we can do that for them. We do the full end-to-end. So we help them write the brief. We source the right suppliers. We then write the contracts, and we actually manage the payment. So we would pay the suppliers and then get the money off the client. And that takes away all the pain, both for either the procurement department or the FD in the smaller companies. But they then know that they're properly controlling their spend.
And how does Maestro ensure that the purchasing of goods complies with the values of the business that you're operating in?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think a lot of people look at what we do and say it's great, you save a lot of money, which we invariably do save a lot of money for our clients. But it's also as important to look at the sort of value side of it. A lot of companies put a great deal of emphasis on their values, particularly things like sustainability, diversity is a big issue at the moment. And it's really important that your supplier base is aligned that way. It's quite confusing to your employees when you're actually espousing all these values and then you're onboarding suppliers that aren't aligned with that. So as part of the vetting process we go through, we would understand each of our clients' values and ensure that those suppliers are aligned. They're not just good at doing the job and they can do it efficiently and cheaply, but actually they are completely aligned in terms of values.
That actually is a really big differentiator, I think, and extremely valuable. And people coming in, out of education, and young people today, people care about that. It's important,
It's really important. I mean, it makes a big difference whether who people want to work for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's
Absolutely.
and it's also really important for if you're the marketing director and you're really looking after the brand, it's really frustrating when you find that another part of the business isn't adhering to the brand values. And with social media and all the other ways of actually getting messaging out today, untold damage can be done to companies' brands through this but by just neglecting that sort of process.
Absolutely. Can you share any examples of the learning or indeed differences you've taken from 10 years at the top of call centre businesses and what you do at Maestro? Because they seem very different.
Yeah, well, actually, they are quite similar in many ways, because you're providing a service, and at the listening company, we're providing contact center solutions around customer service and sales. Here we're providing procurement solutions around tail spend, and there are many similarities, particularly around understanding your client, really making sure that you can bespoke your solution to the client. Our big USP at the listening company was around the people. It was undisputed that we had the lowest attrition by a long way across all our call centers. So we had much better engagement, much better productivity, which made us, very difficult to beat. In terms of Maestro, obviously the people are always crucial, but there's going to be a much bigger emphasis on automation. At the listening company, we had a great software platform, but it was always for our internal use. Our vision is, we're spending millions of pounds on AI and machine learning to ensure that it's a very slick process that we can take tail end and make it very quick, and we can deliver a solution within weeks, and we can save a lot of money. But also we're making sure that clients can actually take that platform and embed it in their own businesses and use it, and they can integrate it into things like their accounting systems, their ERP systems, and in that way, we're much more of a SaaS model than a business service. We are.
Without wanting to be controversial, procurement isn't one of those sectors that sounds very sexy. I mean, you could say 10 years ago that's what people would have said about call centre
Well, exactly.
businesses. So what are you doing in order to change people's perception around procurement?
Well, I think a well-run procurement department is a well-run business, and I think a lot of these things sometimes go unnoticed, but there's no doubt about it. Procurement is absolutely fundamental to the success of the company. I think we can make a big difference to helping procurement departments be much more agile, and enable them to do their work better. And to me, anything where you can actually improve the performance of a company, save them a lot of money, and actually allow people to do their jobs better and enjoy their work more is pretty sexy. And sometimes I think people home in on sexy businesses, but actually if you're making a difference wherever you're making a difference, for me that's very exciting.
We're running out of time, sadly, Neville, but I have to ask you one question before we go. Tell me about that beautiful painting behind you.
This one.
Clearly a mountain. Yes, where is it?
It's 3 mountains. It's the Eiger, the Jungfrau and the Monk. It's in Switzerland. I used to do a marathon, and it was called the Interlaken Marathon, and you used to go from Interlaken up to the foot of the Eiger. It was uphill the whole way, but it was beautiful. I mean, the countryside was absolutely stunning. Wow. And I did about 5 times, and then I saw this picture for sale in Grindelwald, and I thought, I better buy it, stick on my wall, remind me of all the fun and pain I went through.
Fantastic. Well, look, Neville, thank you for spotlighting procurement for us today, and for sharing your thoughts around the marginal gains that are clearly there for the taking when we're talking about tail spend. So thank you, and all the best.
My absolute pleasure. Bye.
Bye-bye.